Hi, and welcome. Today is Thursday, the 29th of April, 2021, and I'm glad to have you here joining me. It's nice to start it and have people here right away. I'm going to read through a whole bunch of stuff I've got on my list. I know we'll talk about the most obvious one, the elephant in the room from last night. We'll talk about that maybe at the end. Pfizer admits shedding virus by inhalation or skin contact. Now, I found that at blazingpress.com. It's blazingpress.com/ and then there are hyphens between every word. Pfizer admits in its own mRNA document that non-jabbed can be exposed to the jabs spike proteins by inhalation or skin contact. So, there's a lot of women who are having increased menstrual issues because of getting jabbed. And they're finding nursing mothers, even if a mother has not taken it herself, if she's around somebody who has, it's causing issues for her baby. And I read something from the CDC that said, we don't know what the results will be to your baby, but you need to take the vaccine anyway. And I'm just going, smack my head. How stupid have people become, or how stupid do they think they have made us with the dumbing down of the school system? Is it what they put in the water? For example, fluoride is really bad for the brain. I think of the lead in the water in Flint, Michigan. And don't forget who owns the patent to both the virus and the solution that they have created for the virus. And both in the sense of, the remdesivir that I took, you know who holds the patent on that, don't you? I didn't want to take that drug. I feel like I've been on a chemo drug, and I thank God that my hair loss it's still above normal, but I used to just go like this and I would have a handful of hair, and I did it this time and there's nothing in my hand this time. But when I comb my hair, I get more than what I used to get. It just, I'm sure it's the drugs that they put me on in the hospital. I can't think of any other reason. That's personal opinion. It's my guess, but and it makes, I thought about going to church last Sunday because my state senator, former pastor, was preaching here in Conway. He preaches all over the state, and he was actually here in Conway, and I was going to go, and there were a couple things that, made me hesitate, but one of them was kind of the icing on the cake. I thought, I don't wear a mask. I go out without one. And I thought, I don't know what the situation's going to be. I need to do some checking before I go trying. And if people are still freshly getting this, I won't call it medicine put into their body, but whatever they're getting put into their body, and it's shedding, I can't afford to be getting sick right now when my life is in total chaos with thinking about moving. So I ended up not going. I felt real bad about that, but I thought, I've got to be smart right now. I saw an ad in Phoenix, Craigslist. I didn't see the actual ad. I saw photograph of the ad that somebody posted on Facebook. 500 actors needed to protest at the Phoenix Convention Center from 2 to 11 in the afternoon and evening, $15 an hour. They want anti-Trump protest activities. Minorities welcome, it said. So, I think God's given us a brain that He expects us to use, Diva, in answer to your question there. You know, Larry said it only takes 2 weeks. Stalin said it takes 2 months. If you scare the people badly enough, they will do whatever you tell them to do. And we got scared over and over and over again last year with people talking about how dangerous this was. Now Larry verified it is a bioweapon, but I don't think what they started out with was much worse than just a really dangerous, deadly case of the flu. Because of the recovery rate. I think the bioweapon is what's happening now, that the UK and the South African strains are coming from where they first started doing the inoculations into people. And so it's mutating and it's getting worse and it's more contagious. That's the bioweapon. But of course, what do I know? I'm not medical. That's just my opinion. I also heard, I can't remember who was talking about this. Somebody said that they had it. I can't remember if I read it in a Facebook post or if I actually heard somebody briefly talking about it in a YouTube something. But somebody was driving by a soybean field and the field was covered with black, and it's like, what is that? So the farmer happened to come out as he was going by. The CDC had rented this farmer's soybean field, and there were almost 500,000 plastic coffins stacked in the field. This was in Georgia. And I also heard that they are planning to blame white evangelicals for being anti-vaxxers, and that we will be the reason that life won't return to normal. Life is not going to return to normal because we are at the end of days. And the things that Matthew 24 and Luke 21 predict are going to happen at the end of time have already started happening. And so life will never go back to the complacency we used to enjoy. Shouldn't have enjoyed, but many people enjoyed complacency, and life was grand and they were comfortable, and just don't rock my boat and make me uncomfortable. We're never going back to comfortable, folks. We're just not. There's too much else going on. There are 3 Ohio professors. Okay, so these 2 pieces of information I would have gotten from Coach Dave Live yesterday. 3 Ohio professors think that people should be denied entry to any business and denied our constitutional rights if we don't comply with what they're telling us to take. Too many of our college professors are communists, too many of them. And this is a socialist agenda. I noticed last night that Biden was talking about adding 4 more years to our education, that community college, 2 years of community college will be free. It'll be an extension of high school. They'll extend, so you automatically go into community college, which keeps a job for his wife, right? And that they're going to expand school to start at age 3. So you're going to get free daycare, not daycare, but nursery school. But that's the communist way. The younger you start with the brainwashing and programming, the more ingrained it becomes. So he said that childcare should take up no more than 7% of your income, and people are going to get 12 weeks of paid family leave. 12 weeks, that's 3 months. I know socialist countries like Finland have something like that. Their tax rate is like 70% for the middle class. And that's how they offer all these incredible free education, even college. But I mean, Americans are not going to to want to foot the bill for that. When I think of what happened in Russia under communism, I mean, I was in Moscow on a missions trip and spoke to our tour guide about the freedom versus, what they had available and what happened after they got freedom. And when you have the middle class paying for those who won't work with the social handouts, and of course the poor who think they will freely get whatever they want, whatever the government is promising to get them, and they could just suck off on welfare. I mean, that's a common, sorry, my external camera fell off and the computer one's working. So in Hawaii, there's so many people on welfare, and they live poorly, but they live contentedly, and they'd rather take money from the government than get out, go out and do what needs to be done. And that, I'm sure, is what they are trying to orchestrate by a lot of these payments that we're getting. I mean, for crying out loud, just give us a chance to have a job rather than, these pittance of handouts. I keep remembering Stalin talking about the chicken, that he sat there and plucked all the feathers out of this chicken. Torturous. It wasn't alive. The chicken was alive. And he pulled every single feather out and kicked it, and then put a few grains of corn on the ground, and it came over. And, as if all was forgiven, just give me a little bit of, a handout and I'll be fine. I don't know. And then Biden said that white supremacy is terrorism. And he mentioned that he had met George Floyd's granddaughter, who said George Floyd changed the world, and he should be honored and remembered. I saw a CNN report that the most important statement that Biden made last night was that trickle-down theory doesn't work. So we're going to tax the rich, and we're going to take care of all of you, and we're going to provide all these things you want, free this, free that, which, gets them the vote of the, poor, the hope vote. And of course, as soon as that happens, then they clamp down. I was just so shocked by the deceptive lies that we're told over and over again. And I'm going, that doesn't work. That's just communism. That doesn't work. That's communism. You know for a fact that you will never do what you are promising right now to do. That's not going to happen. And I was scrolling through, where was I? Oh, it popped up. You know how they pop up memories on Facebook. I had posted a picture of Trump at the rally after he won in 2016. I'd gone to the rally in Pennsylvania. And they had a big sign across the stage that he was standing on. It said, promises made, promises kept. And, the kinds of things that he promised in campaign speeches, like Biden was doing last night, that actually happened. And how rare that is. And to look back at things Trump has said from decades ago, even though his personal life was not what most of us would embrace ourselves or wish to embrace in a leader. On the other hand, there are other parts of his life. He certainly is changing in his moral value system and his walk with the Lord. I mean, he's visiting all kinds of different churches and participating and enjoying the move of the Spirit and the joyful worship and so on. Yeah. There's something happening in the life of that man that I think is good. It just seems to me that it is. Representative Scott, the black representative, I think from South Carolina, is that where he's from? Gave a really good speech afterwards, and I only got to hear the beginning. I didn't get to finish it. I'm still waiting to get a chance to finish it. So we'll probably talk a little more about that tomorrow. But saying trickle down, Biden saying trickle down doesn't work. That's the Democratic way. Trickle down doesn't work. We have to tax the wealthy. Don't forget, Jesus said the rich you will always have, the poor you'll always have with you. Well, that also means the rich you'll always have too. There's always going to be a dichotomy there. And a lot of the wealthy start from inherited wealth and then capitalize on that. So they get a huge boost right from the beginning. I had a lot of conversations last year with a gentleman who, both he and his wife, their families came from wealth, but they had not learned to work together to train the next generation or to include the next generation. He said, this is not going to promote wealth to stay in the family, because they weren't working together. They were not using God's biblical principle of unity. And I was listening to something this morning about what's happening among the Palestinians. There you got Abbas and you've got Hamas, and they're vying for power. And Hamas is very, very united, whereas the people following Abbas are very different. They're having to try and create a coalition of various parties, and there's no unity there. And the comment was made, without the unity that Hamas has, Hamas will end up the victor over there. That's just God's biblical principle. And to end on a funny, it made me laugh. But it made me laugh because of the justice involved. We know that the judge, again, has ruled that the Arizona audit can continue, which I'm sure totally freaked the Dems out since they handpicked a new judge. But there were Arizona parents who went to a school board meeting en masse. There was such a huge group of them that the school board members left and went into the back room and said, "We're canceling the meeting." They were terrified of what all these parents were going to do. So the parents got together and said, "Fine, we're electing a new school board. Who's from this district? Who's from this district?" And they were nominating. And they said, forget it. We don't want this school board that we've got. They won't listen to us, so we'll start over. So that was an interesting concept. But you know what? That really just shows that we have more power and authority than we tend to realize we do. And, I think it's important that we recognize what we can do and step up to be involved, because there's more we can do than we are in the habit of doing. So, that took a little longer than we normally do, but last night was a big issue. And as somebody said there at the beginning, I think it was Laura who said, things are so crazy right now. So we're getting back to wise Solomon. And we've looked at his prayer at the dedication of the temple that he built. Earlier in his life, Solomon prayed for something that changed his life. So we're going to read a passage, and it says, notice why it's important for Solomon to build the temple. Note what Solomon prays for and how God answers. So this is 1 Kings. The prayer was in 1 Kings 8. This is going back to 1 Kings 3, verses 1 to 15. Now Solomon formed a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, which is a typical thing to do. You're becoming a son-in-law or daughter-in-law marriages of the children was a way of unifying two potentially competitive countries. And because for the sake of the children, they wouldn't attack one another. He took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem, which would be for extra protection. The people they built a wall for protection. All the way back in Bible times, walls were very important. Enough said on that, right? The people were still sacrificing. This is sad. The people were still sacrificing on the high places. Now they apparently didn't have the tabernacle from Moses. A lot of years had gone by. And so they were sacrificing to God, but they were building altars all over the place. And it was very, very much compromised with the pagan ways of the nations around them. There was no house built for the name of the Lord until those days. Now Solomon loved the Lord, so obviously his parents had done something to instill in him a love for God. Walking in the statutes of his father David, except he was sacrificing and burning incense on the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there because that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, "Ask what you wish me to give you." Then Solomon said, this is his prayer, "You have shown great faithfulness to your servant David, my father, according as he walked before you in truth, in righteousness, and uprightness of heart, toward you. And you have reserved for him, or kept for him, this great faithfulness, that you have given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, Lord my God, you've made your servant king in place of my father David, yet I'm like a little boy. I don't know how to go out or come in or conduct daily business. Your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give your servant an understanding heart. Give me a heart that listens. Give me a discerning heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who's capable of judging this great people of yours? And so God answers him. Now it was pleasing in the sight of the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said to him, because you've asked for this and have not asked for yourself a long life, you've not asked for riches for yourself or asked for the lives of your enemies, but have asked for yourself discernment to understand justice. Behold, I've done according to your words. Behold, I have given you a wise and discerning heart, so that there has been no one like you before, nor shall anyone arise like you after. I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so there will not be any among the kings like you all your days. And if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and commands as your father David walked, then I will prolong your days. Then Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came back to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered burnt offerings and made peace offerings, and held a feast for all his servants. Now, he's come back to Jerusalem, and the ark of the covenant is there in Jerusalem. And so he is offering sacrifices in front of the ark. But how that is housed, I don't have memory of that. So notice what was important. The ark was in Jerusalem, but he was sacrificing at high places like the pagans did. Now his focus of his sacrifice was God Almighty, Elohim, the creator. But the fact that he's out in other high places is, like I said, compromising. He asked for discernment between right and wrong, and the ability to administer justice is what he asked for. And then God added so much more to him. It was amazing. That's why we see then in 1 Kings 8, when he's praying at the temple, he's talking about all the people from surrounding countries, the foreigners who are going to come to worship Almighty God in Jerusalem at this incredible temple. The temple was covered in gold. I mean, it was just unbelievably beautiful. And dear Hezekiah showed off everything. And so when Nebuchadnezzar came, all the gold was stripped off. Okay, in Psalm 96, this psalm expresses God's care for and lordship over all the nations of the earth. So we're going to read through this and count the number of times the world's nations and people are referred to. And we're going to try and notice any similarities to Solomon's prayer. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, bless his name. Proclaim the good news of his salvation from day to day. Tell of his glory among the nations, his wonderful deeds among the people. For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. He's to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the peoples are mere idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. So this is a parallel to what Solomon did. He started out greatly worshiping and adoring God in his prayer. So ascribe to the Lord, you families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory of his name. Bring an offering and come into his courts. Worship the Lord in holy attire, trembling before him all the earth. Here we go again. Say among the nations, the Lord reigns. Indeed, the world is firmly established. The world, again, that's number 3. It will not be moved. He will judge the peoples fairly. Peoples again. May the heavens be joyful. May the earth rejoice. They're trying to get this in front of the, what do I have to do? Back up. May the heavens be joyful. May the earth rejoice. May the sea roar and all it contains. May the field be jubilant and all that's in it. Then all the trees of the forest will sing for joy before the Lord. For he's coming. For he's coming to judge the earth. So that's number 11. He will judge the world, number 12, in righteousness and the people in his faithfulness. He mentions here that the gods of the nations are idols, that the rest of the nations don't worship the true living God. And God is going to judge the world righteously. There have been times when God's judgment has fallen. There are plenty of times when we tend to dismiss what happens and thinks it's just, a fluke of nature or some natural proceeding and not recognizing God's hand in it. When I think of all the things that are happening, earthquakes and volcanoes and, DARPA fires, DARPA may be responsible for a lot of that. But don't you think God knows that those things are going to be done? And therefore, when he's allowing some of this to proceed, that it's part of his will to get people's attention to turn back to him? In Solomon's day, the people heard of God's glory. They heard of Solomon's magnificent splendor and wealth and wisdom. And so there were lots of visitors coming into Jerusalem. Today, we still have missionaries going to the world, but when I think of all the people coming into this country, God's bringing the world to us. And I mentioned that yesterday. And again, the covenant that was made in 1607 in Virginia, that we would take the gospel to the nations. So, Solomon was recognizing in his prayer of dedication that the nations were coming, that they might know God and behold the glory of God in the amazing building that Solomon had built to glorify his name. So, with our being the temple of the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit, I'm just suggesting tonight that you think in the next few days about how you are glorifying glorifying God in his temple, as in you. Mike from Around the World will be on with Paul Begley tonight at, I don't know if he's starting at 8:30 or 9 Central Time. But Mike from Around the World has a lot of insider information on a lot of stuff going on. So I kind of enjoy listening to him. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. That's tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow rather than start again a new chapter. Somebody had asked about our doing a Bible survey. So I thought I'd go over a few things. We'll just take it in little pieces. And so I thought I'd do some of that tomorrow. All right. God bless you. We'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.